What's going on YouTube? It's Giga here, and you did read that title correctly. This past weekend was the Secaucus, New Jersey Regional, and I came in top 16. Overall, it has been such a surreal experience. I'm still in shock when I think about it. And so I wanted to take some time to just like talk about some things from it. We will talk about the team at the end. There will be the pace for it, but yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit and talk about the experience of that. So first of all, this regional, in my opinion, is probably one of the scariest regionals you will ever see. The top eight, for people that saw it, seven of the people in top eight were regional winners, and the one person who was not was Santino. And I don't think anyone is going to say Santino is like lesser because of that. Santino is one of the most incredible players. We had Wolf Glick in there, who is a world champion on top of a world's finalist. We had Emilio, who won, who is also a world's finalist. And on top of the people that made top eight, there are also other incredible people such as like Joe UX9, Chongjun was there, Mike D'Angelo, and Pengy, who won the last regional. Just to name a couple. There were so many other people there, and I think if I tried to name all of them, that would be this whole video. So overall, it was a very terrifying experience going in. Like I said, it was my first regional, so I had a lot of nerves, but I walked in with the goal of saying, hey, I'm gonna try and go 4-4, and if I get to even, like, that would be great. And so I did slightly better than that, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. But so that was the rundown. I do want to talk a little bit about the prep that I did. So going in, I made the decision that I wanted to use Zacian Kyogre. I think it's an archetype that I'm comfortable with. It's something I've probably played the longest. I am definitely a little bit bored of it, but it was a good starting place. And so I had one team in mind, and I talked to a friend who was like, "Don't do this. This is bad," and suggested I use a different six. And so I kind of built a framework for that. And I think the next big step that I did that I think made a very big difference was I signed up for a training session from Paul Ruiz to go through the team itself and break it down and fix a lot of the EV spreads and just things to consider. And that really did play a very big role in the day. I had also considered, I can talk about this now, I'd considered using Calyrex Ice Rider with Lunala. It was a team that I really wanted to use, but it wasn't the right choice, and I'm really glad I did it, or I didn't use it. So after the team had solidified, I tried to play as many sets as I could. Not as many sets as I could. I wanted to play a good amount of sets without burning myself out too quickly. So I reached out to some of the best players that I know, people that have had a lot of experience with this, and we played some sets, and we talked through some of the common matchups, and going through that was really helpful. I think one thing that I didn't do that a lot of other players do is I didn't flowchart for matchups. And I think flowcharting, I think there are reasons to flowchart, but the reason that I don't like flowcharting in particular is, one, it's not my style to make that big of a commitment, and two, the risk with flowcharting is you flowchart for one version of a team, and there's so much variance in Pokemon that I was afraid that if I had made a plan for something and then my plan fell apart, it's a lot harder to recover versus if you're adjusting on the fly. And I think back to when Aaron Zhang was, sorry, my voice is gone. Um, I was thinking back to when Aaron Zhang was talking about Salt Lake City and how he had flowcharted for Rinya's Sun, but when he played Chongjun, the fact that Chongjun had Charty Berry completely threw out his whole plan because he just couldn't adapt to it. So I think having the ability to adapt is really important. But similarly, other people do make the decision to flowchart. It has obviously been incredibly successful. I'm not going to say don't do it. I'm just going to say for me, it wasn't that helpful. So next up, talking about the event itself, I think that there are a lot of really good guides on things to prepare for and like what to bring and all that. I just wanted to give some like little tips that for me I didn't know, and they would have been very good to know. I'm sure that there are guides that cover it. All of these things were covered. I just am very forgetful. So the first one is you are allowed to bring a pro controller. So you can use wireless controllers, but they have to be plugged in. So if I were to use this controller as is, it wouldn't be allowed. But if you have a cable connecting to your Switch, it definitely is allowed. And it does make a very big difference because you can lean a little bit further back. I was hunched over the whole time, so it ended up not mattering at all. But I mean, having my arms a little bit back was nice, and not having to worry about controller drift, I think was worth it. Next up, for your vaccination card, you can bring a photo. I know that you're allowed to for this event and you are allowed for Milwaukee, but obviously if you have the actual one, it's always better. But that was something I asked about, and it was good to know. And then, so this is something I screwed up. So whenever you play your games, you're given a piece of paper, and it's where you record who won each set and who lost, and you turn it in. So I didn't know that. After that, both players have to initial the sheet for it to be valid. So I made the mistake of bringing the sheet up, not knowing what I'm doing without that. So just a little tidbit for people. It hopefully will not come in handy, or it hopefully will come in handy for someone, but I just wanted to say that. So now talking a little bit about Saturday. So like I said, my goal for the day was just to go 4-4. In terms of the specific matchups, unfortunately, I really don't remember most of them. Most of the teams I played were very standard. I know that was fairly uncommon. I talked to someone that played Ho-Oh Giratina. There were other people who played. I had a friend play Greedent. I had someone else just run into a bunch of different things. So I think while playing common matchups is important, you also have to remember that there is some variance. So the first half of the day, I went 3-1, which was a really great start in my mind. I was like, okay, we're on the way to making the goal of hitting 4 games. And then we had a lunch break. My lunch break did not go as planned, and unfortunately, I did not get to eat my lunch, and I was carrying it with me. And so my first game after lunch, I open up the app to see who I'm playing, and I see I'm playing Chongjun. So this was very scary for me because Chongjun obviously is an incredible player. He won Salt Lake City. He did not lose a single game or a single set, and so I definitely was nervous for sure. I sat down against Chongjun, and we were playing essentially a mirror. He was playing Life Orb Kyogre, and he had Thundurus over Zapdos. And so the first game I was able to win, and I was feeling a lot better. I was like, okay, we have some buffer. And so game 2, I led Grimmsnarl Zapdos, and he led Kyogre Incineroar. And we both maxed. I went for he went for a fake out in my Grimmsnarl to stop screens. I went for a Thunder into his Kyogre, or a Max Lightning into his Kyogre, expecting to pick up a knockout. I ended up doing about 60%, and he one-shot me with Max Geyser. And from that point, the game was over. There was not much that I could do to come back from that. And then, so I lost game 2. It was the first set I had played that day that went to game 3. I only had 2 sets go to game 3. All the others were 2-0s. So in the third game, I adapted very well. I was able to stall out his max using, I think, I used Grimmsnarl Kyogre to stall out his max. And then basically I was down 2-4, but I still had a max with Zapdos. And I was able to position my Zapdos well to sweep with Zacian in the end game. So that was a really big deal. And then the other match I want to talk about is my round 6 against Kyle. So Kyle was the player that was second going into top 8, and he absolutely just destroyed me. I actually, God, my voice is terrible right now. I actually apologized to him after playing our game. I was like, "Hey, I'm sorry. You deserved a better game than I could give me, or I could give him." He made a very, very good adjustment game 2, and after the first turn, it was essentially over because he had led Incin Thundurus, I had led Grimmsnarl Kyogre, and my plan was to max Geyser into his Thundurus to try and get the KO. I knew he had Gastrodon, but he hadn't brought it game 1, and I had pressured with Rillaboom, so I was expecting him to not have it in the back. And so I maxed Kyogre, and I see the instant switch out, and I know that there's nothing I can do because I'm going to lose Kyogre, do no damage to this Thundurus, and I was too behind at that point. I had no way of dealing with Gastrodon, and so he was able to pretty easily wrap that one up. I tried to play it out, but I don't know how good of a decision that was. But that was my penultimate match, and then my last match also is the other one that went to game 3. It was, I totally forget the team. He was also a newer player. It was really cool to meet so many newer players. Game one, he missed Electro Web on both of my Pokemon, which let me get my Zapdos faster than his Zacian in the end game. So I was able to win with that. So I felt really bad about it. Game two, he crit my Zapdos through screens, so it kind of evened out. And then game three, I was able to once again position Zapdos really well. So I know that Zapdos was a Pokemon that I was really unsure about, but it definitely managed to to step up. So now we're going to quickly switch over to talk about the team itself. So it is Zacian Kyogre with Incin, Grimmsnarl, Rillaboom, and Zapdos. So this is the standard 6 that Pengy had used, but there are a fair bit of changes that I think made it different than the team he used. It's still the same 6, but I think the way the team works is a lot different. So first of all, we do have Zacian, and so the idea with this Zacian was I wanted to be jolly because I wanted to outspeed all Adamant Zacians. This is a change that I'd made on 2 pals, and this is something I wanted to do here because my thought process was, hey, there's going to be a lot of Adamant Zacians. If I can set up in front of them, we're in really good shape. And so for the HP, I originally had 236 because of the fact that I wanted to have an optimal number for 5 substitutes. But when talking to Paul, he suggested we go down to 212 because what that did is that gives me a little extra attack, and I still am able to make the 5 substitutes that I wanted to. So we were able to get a little bit more into bulk, which played a pretty big role, as well as attack for the extra boost from from Intrepid Sword. So next up is Assault Vest Kyogre. So I was planning on using Scarf originally, was talked into Assault Vest. Definitely the right decision for sure. In terms of bulk, we were able to take a Play Rough from a Adamant Zacian with 212 attack. I thought that that was an important metric. I originally had opted to try and beat Adamant Zacian with 252, but it seemed very unlikely. The highest we were seeing in terms of Picolytics was 212, so being able to account for that also gave us a little bit more bulk by being able to invest more in HP and also some special defense. You are able to outspeed Calyrex Shadow at +1, but I don't think I played a single Calyrex Shadow, which is a pretty uncommon scenario overall, but it worked out. So next up, we do have Incineroar. Incineroar is a pretty standard Pokemon. In terms of the Calx itself, the defense lets you take a +1 Max Quake from Calyrex Ice. I just thought that Trick Room is really on the rise, so being able to have a positive matchup into that, I thought was important, and I thought that having safety goggles was great for Amoonguss. I ended up playing 1 Amoonguss and 0 Trick Room teams as well, so a pretty uncommon bracket for sure, but we got there. Other than that, the special defense, it gives you a very good roll versus Charizard Airstream in the Sun. So that was something that I thought was important too, because Charizard obviously a very important Pokemon to account for, and I wanted to deal with that. So next up is Grimmsnarl. Grimmsnarl's pretty standard. We do have Thunder Wave, we do have Spirit Break. This really helps versus the Palkia matchup. It also really helped against the Yveltals. I ran into a couple of them. I played Yuri in round 7. Yes, I played. Okay, so I played Chongjun, then I played Kyle, then I played Yuri, and then I actually forget. I have an ability to check it. I just whatever. I played multiple Yveltals, and the point is Grimmsnarl was very good against those. AV Kyogre was very good against that, being able to set up so effectively. Between the Assault Vest and the Light Screen, and then the ability to go for Spirit Break, there really wasn't much that Yveltal could do. In terms of the bulk, we are able to survive a Behemoth Blade through Reflect. So I thought that that was really important. The special defense, I don't think hits anything in particular. And then we opted for 12 speed just because we didn't. Oh no, the special defense means we survive a Water Spout in the rain after Light Screen. The speed, we did want a little bit more of. 28 is a good benchmark, but we unfortunately weren't able to hit everything we wanted to with the bulk and the speed. So speed was the one we chose to compromise on. So next up is Rillaboom. So Rillaboom is a pretty fast boy. So the reason for that was my plan originally was just to outspeed Jolly Incineroar. I know that that is a very common tech for Trick Room teams to say, hey, I'm going to fake you out first and then set up the Trick Room. By opting that high, Paul pointed out that I was very close to hitting Gothitelle. And so we put the extra speed for being able to hit Gothitelle, and it really it really, I mean, it didn't matter. I played 0 Gothitels, and the one scenario where having a speedy Rillaboom was relevant, my opponent's Rillaboom was faster. So it didn't play a role at all. I know other people, I think, I forget who it was. They were 180 speed, so they speed tied Gothitelle, and they played a Goth, and it was a speed tie, and it was a very interesting experience overall. Other than that, the bulk is to kind of help with Zacian. We do obviously have the pretty standard Protect, Fake Out, Grassy Glide, High Horsepower. So not much to say there. And then finally, we do have Zapdos. So pretty standard 252, 252, 4. We do have Heat Wave. So originally I had Eerie Impulse, but I opted to switch for Heat Wave instead after talking to Paul and just talking about how it gives you better matchup into things like Zacian as well as Shedinja. So I did talk to Pengy about my version of the 6 and how it's different. He said that he prefers Eerie Impulse on Zapdos. I think Zapdos having Heat Wave was a very big game changer for me. Being able to set up the Sun versus a Zacian and then KO it the subsequent turn was important. I ran into multiple Rillabooms, and having the 90% accuracy Heat Wave as opposed to the 70% accurate Hurricane definitely came in. So I think Heat Wave was a very good call. The spread damage is just always very nice to have. So this is the 6. And finally, let's just quickly hop over. So this is the code for the team if people want to check it out. I know it's not necessarily the most interesting team, but sometimes it's fine to have something a little bit boring. I think comfort is important, and so this team definitely was comfort for me, and it paid off. So I guess quickly talking about what's next. So I have Milwaukee coming up as well as NEIC, and I want to try for Worlds. It is very unlikely. I need 320 CP between 2 events, which boils down to potentially another top 16 at Milwaukee and then a top 8 at NEIC. It's very difficult for sure, but it's not unrealistic. I think going into this weekend, the thought of Worlds was unrealistic and it was just completely out of reach. But this event has showed me that, hey, it is doable. It is going to be one of the hardest things that I do, but it is definitely something I want to push for. So I plan to really push for Worlds. I have 2 shots to do it, and unfortunately I will not know until NEIC, but obviously it is a goal and I really want to give it my best, and I really want my voice to stop cracking. So yeah, I'm gonna push for that. We definitely will continue to have content on the channel, so look out for that. Unfortunately, I don't have any replays from my matches. I've loved to have talk about those, but I mean there's always next time, right? But overall, it was such an incredible experience. I met so many people that were wonderful. I met so many bigger names that I had really wanted to meet. I met the Battle Room. I met Adi. I met Battle Room. I met Adi. I met Santino, who is just an absolute great human being. I got to meet friends that I had only talked to online, and it was just such a great experience. I met so many new people too, and if you get the chance, it is such a different experience from playing online. And I'm very thankful for the online circuit to get so many people into the experience, but just having experienced this, it is absolutely incredible. So yeah, definitely, if you get the chance, do it. If you're going to Milwaukee or NAIC, I would definitely love to meet you. It would be great to see some more people. We're going to do some more prep for that for sure. It'll probably be mostly off the channel. We'll go back to laddering with some fun stuff, but this was a big deal for me, so I definitely wanted to make the video. I hope people try out the team and have some fun with it. And yeah, with that, until next time, I hope all of you are wonderful, and I'll see you then.